Hi, and welcome to this session. My name is Lisa Marie Fletcher, and I am a homeschooling mom with 5 kids ranging in age from preschool to high school. I also run a website called The Canadian Homeschooler, where my mission is to help homeschoolers across Canada connect with each other and also with resources to help them on their journey. Today, I'm excited to present to you a presentation about how to plan your homeschool year based on some of the things and tips and tricks that I've learned over the last 12 plus years as we've been homeschooling at our house. To begin with, I just want to explain that I generally break it down into 5 simple steps. The first is to set your goals for the year. The next is to figure out how your child learns and how you want to teach. The third is to choose your curriculum and then prep, and then break it down and then prep. So that's what we're going to cover today. Let's start with the first one, which is all about setting goals and subjects. So the first real step in starting out your homeschool year is to put together a general overview of what you're going to teach and learn throughout the year. This could be as basic as what actual academic subjects you're going to teach, whether that's math, science, history, etc. What topics you would like to learn through a unit study, like if you're going to study horses or space or dinosaurs, or it could be more ideas for specific targeted goals, like being able to write in cursive or memorize all the times tables to 12 times 12. Make sure that your goals are developmentally appropriate and personalized to your child. If you have small children, such as 1 to 3-year-olds, you really don't want to set any academic goals at this age. It's about learning through life and play. And this age range is perfect to pick up simple goals for things like life skills and language development, large motor skills like learning to climb on a climber, or basic fine motor skills like learning how to hold a crayon. This age should be a non-pressure, non-stress approach to learning. Okay, so I don't even really want to talk about those preschool years. We're going to talk more about the academic side of things. When your kid gets to around preschool or kindergarten, that's when people tend to start thinking about academics. And again, the best way to learn at this stage is about play and no stress approach to learning. But it can be the start of early academic goals, like learning to recognize names and sounds of letters, to understand and recognize numbers up to 5. Another goal could be how to print their name. This age group is a perfect time to have goals around easy chores like emptying the dishwasher or setting the table or cleaning up toys, those kinds of things, or putting their laundry away, those things. Unit studies are a great way to learn at this age, so picking out topics that they're curious about so you can get hands-on and creative. It's a method that a lot of young learners do really well. When you get to the early years, you can really start to focus on a variety of academic and personal goals. Plans become much more involved at this point, but don't get too complicated and add too much. You don't want to overwhelm you or your child. You have to decide if you're going to follow the government's curriculum guidelines, or if you have to, or if you're going to do it on your own thing. Consider what subjects you want to cover. If you're going to cover math, reading, and writing, those are the basics that most of the time we tend to cover in a year. And what things interest you and your child the most, as well as what you would consider personally extras in your day. Do you consider art a mandatory thing, or is that an extra that you would like to squeeze in if you have time? Ask your child what they would like to study this year and can put that into consideration as well as while you're planning out all your interests for the year. If you get your kid to make a vision board for the year, this is where they kind of come up with a plan of things that they personally would like to set goals for, maybe around things like academics or social skills or physical activities or money. Kids are really motivated by money goals, those kinds of things. It's a great way to see what your child's personal goals are so that you can help them figure out what steps they need to get there. And when you get to middle school, most people consider this to be the pivot point between the early years and high school and want to start increasing the difficulty of courses, become more independent in their learning, and to become more intentional with what they're learning as well. Of course, this doesn't have to be. You can absolutely keep doing what you've been doing. Some suggestions are to start to focus more on academics and using child interests to find more focused learning programs. Something cool that I have found has worked really well is to do things like go to websites that offer online classes, not necessarily to enroll in them, but to see if your child can filter through those lessons, those courses, and see which ones catch their eye or they're most appealing to them. That way you can use that information to be able to create your own, or you can take that class if it works for you. But sometimes it just triggers an idea of what is interesting to them to help you kind of have an idea of what they might be interested in learning about. When you get to high school, this is a 4-year period where generally the subjects become more specialized. You need to decide at this point if you're going to try and find a way to accomplish an official government diploma usually through accredited programs, or if you're just going to do your own thing and not really worry about a diploma too much at all. In general, at this point, classes are divided up into two courses or two sections. There's the core subjects and electives. Core subjects are things like math, science, uh, language, arts, and social studies, history and geography typically. And electives can be anything outside of these. So there's special interest classes like photography or computer studies or business or music. You need to figure out an idea of how many courses you can accomplish in a year or need to get done in a year. And typically these are known as credits. They're based generally on how many hours have been completed or the amount that is completed of a specific course. I know here where I am, it's 120 hours, 110 or 120 hours equals 1 credit. So just if you figure that out, it gives you an idea of how much work needs to be done within a year. High school is a really great time to evaluate passions and goals that your child's future and current life. Planning in general overview of the high school experience from the beginning can really help you organize what subjects you're going to complete and when. I also had a friend who is a bigger expert than I am at teaching high school, who told me that the best plan for high school is to be proactive, to think about what the end goal is and then develop out your high school plan backwards. So you make sure you met all the goals and expectations for your post-secondary plans or any of that stuff while you're working your way towards them, instead of getting to that point and being like, oh man, we missed grade 9 science, we missed a grade 9 credit, and we missed a grade 11 credit. If you plan out backwards, it usually makes it easier for you. Something really important to remember at this point is this first step is just figuring out what your goals are for the year and what subjects you want to cover. This is not like the big goal. This is just the little steps so that we can break it down to make it easier for you to find what you're doing. Don't overcomplicate things. At this point, just write down what subjects, what topics you want to cover in the year. That's step 1. Step 2 is about finding your style and approach. When you know what you want to teach this year, the next step is to take a look at the different ways that kids learn and how to observe your child to discover what they most likely are, how they learn. Okay, the most common, and then also to figure out what homeschool approach to use while you're teaching. To figure out how your child learns, you're going to find that generally there are a set of options of learning styles that are most common, and these are the visual learners who need to see to understand, auditory learners who need to hear to understand, and kinetic learners who need to do something or be moving and doing to understand. For example, when you get a piece of new assemble it yourself furniture, some people need to look at the pictures in the book. They need to see a video or pictures of the book of how to put it actually together. Some people need somebody else to read the instructions to them so they can understand what steps they need to do to be able to complete that project. The next is the person who just dives right in and will figure it out while they're going along, because doing it helps them understand exactly what they are doing. Those are different styles. So you may notice with your child that they have a specific learning style, and you will probably, as a parent, you probably already know the best way they do. If not, take some time and just kind of get them to do something and see what things they use the best to be able to figure that out. Next, we're going to talk about teaching styles. And this is more about how you want to be able to teach your child. Homeschooling affords this opportunity to approach learning and teaching from a very unique and outside the box point of view. You can go with a completely traditional way of teaching school if you want to, the typical traditional textbook workbook plan as found in a classroom. But some of the more popular methods for homeschooling also include things like Charlotte Mason, classical, unit studies, unschooling, and an eclectic approach where you take a little bit of each of the other ones and put it together to work the best for you. Okay, so here's some information about different homeschooling methods, and so that you can see what they each are. For example, the Charlotte Mason approach kind of really focuses on living books, so good quality literature that brings aspects of history and science to life in a way that makes it relevant to the child. It uses a lot of nature studies and habit training, that kind of thing. Classical studies focus very heavily on the trivium, which is about the logic and reasoning development of a child's brain and the different stages that those go through so that they can be able to approach curriculum and learning using the skills that are most developed at that various age. They tend to focus really heavily on languages too, particularly things like Latin and Greek. Unschooling takes a child-led approach, and it tends to be more about learning through life. So if a child is passionate about dinosaurs, your child will naturally be inclined to discover more about dinosaurs, that kind of thing. Unit studies take a topic and then develop an entire plan based on that one topic. So maybe you want to discover more about flowers, and then you will do a science experiment about flowers, a field trip related to flowers, a book related to flowers, write a story or a report about flowers. You might have math where you're counting flowers and doing science. Basically the whole thing is about that one topic. But then eclectic kind of takes choose your own adventure and the little bits and pieces from other subjects that you're interested in. Those are not the only options that are available, but they are the most popular ones that I'm aware of. Okay, so remember something here. When you're picking out how your child learns and specifically how you are going to teach or what one appeals to you the most, the important thing to remember is you are not obligated to live and die by the homeschool methodology or your child's learning style. This is just a tool to help you narrow down your focus so when you're picking curriculum, you're not overwhelmed. In reality, you're probably going to lean one way but pull from different philosophies and ideas as well as resources that aren't necessarily exactly what your child's learning style is. Okay, giving them room to experience and grow through different styles can really help them cement their learning, even if it's not in their natural inclination. The idea of seeing how your child naturally solves problems is just a good way for you to figure out what options that will help you to be most successful in this adventure. Okay, you don't have to live and die by what you discover in step 2. It's just a guideline. It's just to help you narrow things down. Now for step 3 is all about curriculum, and choosing curricula is the one step that tends to overwhelm, panic, stress people out, and can be one of the hardest steps to make when homeschool planning. Let's face it, there are so many choices out there. It can be too many choices. My advice is not just to go search up homeschool curriculum online because you're going to get millions and millions of results. You're going to get overwhelmed, and honestly, that's not how you want to start your homeschool year. This is why you just spent time doing the last 2 steps. Now you know what you want to teach and how you want to teach it. It will help significantly narrow down the results. Now that you have that, the next thing is to answer a few more questions like, do you care if their curriculum is faith-based or not faith-based? Do you care if your curriculum has a particular worldview? For example, for my Canadian community, many people are looking for a Canadian viewpoint when they're looking for homeschool curriculum. It's not always available, but that's kind of something that you can use as a starting point. Do you want an open and go program? Do you want something to tell you exactly what to do every day? Or do you want a flexible curriculum that allows you to pick and choose what and when? When you answer all those questions and you've narrowed things down, do you want online? Do you want offline? Do you care? These are things that you need to consider because they will help you be able to figure out more about what your year should look like and feel like in the curriculum that you're going to do. Once you have all those questions answered, you're going to start with one subject per kid at a time while searching so you don't get overwhelmed. When you find a possible fit during your research, write it down on your page. If you find multiple options, write them down so you can do a comparison. Instead of being general, try to search for exactly what you're looking for. Of course, it might not always work as not every combination is going to have a resource for it, but this is a good place to start. For example, you could search in homeschool math hands-on Charlotte Mason and see what comes up as suggestions. Get as detailed in your search as possible. Don't just check Google. Look for other resources too. For example, you may want to try reading reviews, and some places to find them are to go on to Pinterest, search for homeschool blogging reviews, see if there's any YouTube videos of people using the products. You can go to a homeschool conference and take the opportunity to talk to the vendors themselves, check out the materials in your hands, chat with other homeschoolers to see how they like curriculum and what they did and what they didn't like. Consider the price and if it's resaleable or if you care that it can be resold. How much planning or prep you're going to have to do, whether you're going to need to print anything or if it's all right there in a workbook, whether it's a digital or print copy, those things. So take a look around. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Either there's lots of amazing online classes and programs, there's lots of digital and printable resources, and some other unique places to search from. For example, there's a website called Teachers Pay Teachers, which homeschoolers may not automatically think of because it looks like it's designed for teachers, but there's lots of amazing learning resources available on that website. When you finally narrow down everything and you've picked out, okay, this looks like a good math and this looks like a good science or whatever it is that you're going to do, once you've narrowed it all down and you've picked exactly what you think you want to try this year, you need to buy what you've decided. Okay, so you're going to check out used homeschool curriculum sales. You make sure you're buying things that are only allowed to be resold. Do not buy photocopied resources. Do not buy products that specifically say not for resale. Make sure you're aware of that before you buy anything. Okay. Facebook is a great place to find used curriculum, or sometimes local communities also sell local book sales, have local book sales so that you can exchange books or sell your old curriculum or buy used curriculum. So look for that as well. So you're going to keep an eye out for sales at stores and with publishers. The most common time for resources to be on sale is between April and September. If you like digital products too, there's often a lot of bundle sales within that time frame from spring to fall as well. That's when a lot of companies team up and do bundle sales as well for digital resources. So remember, this curriculum searching step is going to take some time. It's not always easy to figure out exactly what will be right for your child and homeschooling adventures. And even if you think you found something absolutely amazing, it's going to be perfect, your kid's going to like it, you may actually discover it's a total flop. This happens, okay? Curriculum is honestly a trial and error venture with your kids. All you can do is choose what you think what think might work, and then test it out. And yes, you may lose some money. It happens. And that's where you hope that you can resell or repurpose or reuse a product again. But and another thing I'll just mention is that sometimes things feel like a flop and you're just like, why isn't this working? It should work. And I want to just let you know that it's okay if you need to take a product that is already made and felt like it's going to be good. It's okay to get rid of it, but it's also okay to adapt it, change whatever you need to change to make it work better for you. Okay. So you're not obligated to follow exactly the plan in the book. If you need to change it a little bit so that it will, or a lot, you can use the basic frame and just tear it apart and do whatever you need to do with you. It's okay to change things up if it's not working the way that it's designed and intended for. Okay, so now let's see. We've got our whole, what we're going to learn for this year. We've got figured out how we're going to teach it and how our child is best to learn. We've found what curriculum we're going to use, and we've bought our curriculum. So what's the next step? Now it's time to plan out what we're going to do and organize it for the year. What will your year look like? How do you want your year to look like? So you need to put some thought into how you're going to lay out your year. So do you want to follow the traditional school year of September to June? Do you want to take the same holidays and breaks that planned? Do you want school to only be 4 days a week and have 3 days off for a long weekend, or so that you have an extra day off for play dates and group activities? Do you want to do something called Sabbath school, which is 6 weeks of learning and then 1 week off to rest? Do you want to spread your schoolwork out through an entire year, or do a completely different time frame? Say maybe you want to work from March to November. Maybe your school year is completely different based on your family's needs. Are there times in your year that you're going to need off? Like, for example, that you always have to take off August, so you're going to cross that right off your schedule. Kind of look at your calendar and see what's going to work for you. When you've kind of figured out how you want your homeschool year to be laid out time-wise and those kinds of things, the next good advice is to get a planner. And there's lots of options for planners, running from getting a printed one to using a digital or an online one, or making one yourself. Now, my tips for this are the following. Number one, you want to use pencil or an editable program if it's a thing. Pencil makes it so that it's editable and you can move things around. Make sure your digital planners have drag and drops options so you can move things around as you want. My next tip is to, instead of doing specific dates, like on Monday, September the 17th, we are going to accomplish XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. And then September the 18th, we're going to do blah, 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 because we have often found that having specific dates and then something comes up and you don't get the work done, you feel overwhelmed and stressed because now you're behind and you're not following the dates anymore, and you feel this pressure and overwhelm. Instead, write day 1, day 2, day 3. Okay, that makes it so that even if you've skipped an entire week of work, you haven't fallen behind because the next day is going to be the next day number. Okay, don't use the dates. That's my other tips. The third tip is to be flexible. Remember, even if you put it in a calendar, it's not always going to work out exactly as you planned. The planner is just more of a guideline to help you kind of keep on task. I know for me, I tend to wander off if I don't have an actual something that says, remember, you need to do some math today. So just being flexible still helps, but remember, it's just supposed to be a guideline. So what do you do with this planner? So sometimes when you buy curriculum right at the very beginning or somewhere in the curriculum, it's got a suggested schedule. So you can look in there and see how they break down the curriculum over the year and then plunk it into your planner so that it follows the patterns and the plans that works for you. If it doesn't have a schedule or the schedule they've created isn't going to work to you, you just kind of break it down into chunks. Traditionally, school years have a 36-week or 180-day plan. So using that as a guideline, it can help you figure out how to break down the curriculum or your plans into chunks. And then once they're broken down, you can figure out what each day should have or you want each day to have, and then add them to the planner. Just keep doing each one until you have everything down, and ta-da, your lesson plans for an entire year are planned. If you are feeling completely trapped by the thought and use of a planner, don't feel overwhelmed. It's okay. You don't have to feel discouraged, because honestly, the best thing I've heard somebody ever tell me was just do the next thing. Most of the time when we're using curriculum that's already created for us and we're not making it ourselves, all you have to do is turn the next page or scroll down the next page of the website or whatever. So just do the next thing. Put a bookmark in the book, and then the next day start at the bookmark. You don't have to stress out. Okay, remember that a planner is not a ball and chain. It's just a visual way to see what you're working on. If any part of it is stressing you out or weighing you down, drop it. A planner is not the be end all of everything to do with homeschooling. It's just supposed to be a helpful guide. At this point, it's just about making the actual implementation of your plan easier. Since you already know what you're going to teach and when, now you can spend some time getting everything organized. This step is about putting systems in place so you're all set and ready to go for the year. It's just to try and make life more easy. My advice is to print and sort everything. If you have any worksheets or photocopying that you need to be done, print them out, put them in folders for the day or the week that they're supposed to be in. If you just need to photocopy a week or a month at a time, and so you don't have like entire reams of paper all printed and then feel like a failure if you don't get through them, you can do that as well. Another thing is to make a book list each week so you know what to get at the library before you head to the library, and so that you can book things off if you need to go, pre-order them so that you can pick them up at the library. Now you also should buy your supplies. Get some good pencils. I personally love the Stadler Norca. Any other school supplies you need, find a way to organize them and have them in easy access. This, at the beginning of the year, is a good time to get any science experiment materials that you're going to need and put them away in the containers. You don't want to be scrambling for beakers and microscopes and magnifying glasses or thermometers right when you're supposed to be doing the actual lesson, because trust me, you will remember all of a sudden that you've never got the thermometer that you were supposed to get. So get it before school year starts. Do it all at the beginning. Get any workbooks, any binders, any papers, anything you're going to need. Have it ready to go for the year. Once you have it all, a good thing to do is to set up systems for all your resources. Make a way for it to be easy for both you and your kids to just grab what you need so that they can get school can be less complicated. Some ideas are to give each child a box with their own stuff in it, like their own box of notebooks. You can even put in a pencil case with their scissors and glue and pencils and pens, that kind of thing. I've seen people use amazing things like color coding. So if this is my child's stuff, it's got a red pencil sharpener and a red pair of scissors and red glue. You can use fancy tape as well to make a specific pattern per child, so everyone automatically knows whose is what when they're looking at things. It can be a lot of work to set up things for this, but once it's set, it's super helpful, because then you're not scrambling to find where's Joe's notebook today or where did Sam stick his pencil. It makes it a lot easier. Personally, one of the things we like to do is have a cup on the counter just full with as many pencils and erasers and things as we need, with a pencil sharpener right beside it, so I don't have to go scrambling to look for things every day, at least until all the pencils have wandered off on their own. The last step is to set up your school space. Now, this isn't about setting up a schoolroom unless that's absolutely what you want to do. Most homeschool families tend to find it gravitates towards the kitchen table or general area related to that. But for me, I mean, for this step, I'm talking about for you as a parent, a teacher. You want to have somewhere for your books to go, somewhere for you to be able to find what you need when you need it. So set up a space, and then everything goes back when you're done for the day. Just set it all back up. Make it simple and easy. It can be as simple as a shelf or really complicated if that's your style as well. As a bonus, I just want to remind you to breathe. Okay, you are all set to go. You have everything in place to have a wonderful homeschool year. Remember, the most important thing for a homeschool year is to enjoy the learning. All these planning in the world is going to be pointless if you're always fighting or struggling or hating every minute of it. Just use the planning steps that I've showed you today to help you succeed in your year, not feel trapped by this plan. Enjoy learning with your kids, however that works for you. I hope that today's session has been helpful for you and that you're able to pull a few tidbits out of it that will be able to make your homeschool year even better. And I'd love to see you join me over at the Canadian Homeschooler for more advice and tips on homeschooling from my experience.